Okay, so this is the next step for if you're making the lanyard with the snap. So we've ironed both of our edges in, and I've re-ironed it in half again, but we will need to open it up one more time. Okay, and what you need to do is fold this edge in by about a quarter. It's not too much of a big deal if it's not exact. Okay, and then give that edge a press with the iron. Alright, once you've done that, fold your sides back in and then fold it in half again, and then just give it one more press. So what this has done now is that's hidden your raw edge away there. Okay, so you'll just need to do the same again with the other end, and then I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, so now we're at the sewing machine ready to do the next step for the lanyard with the snap. So I'll just tell you how I've set up my sewing machine. I've got my sewing machine set up with my black thread. I've got it on a straight stitch with a 2.6 stitch length. I have my walking foot on my sewing machine, which is not essential. You can get away with using a standard foot, but when it comes to doing things like top stitching really close to an edge or doing the corners, a walking foot becomes really handy because you have those feed dogs at the top of your machine to help push the fabric, at the top of your foot to help push the fabric or pull the fabric through your machine while you're sewing. So use a walking foot if you have one, but if not, then a standard foot will do. And I have a size 90 14 universal needle in my sewing machine as well. Okay, alright, so what I'm going to do for this, we're going to top stitch all the way around the edge of this lanyard. So what I like to do is I like to line up the edge of my fabric with a spot on my foot, and that's the spot that I'm going to use to make sure my stitch is going to be straight the whole way through. So on this foot here, I like to either use the inside of this hole here as the guide, or there's a little mark on my plate here that I like to use. So that's what I'll be looking at while I'm sewing. Okay, and what I'm also going to do, because we only want to do a top stitch about maybe 2 or 3 millimeters away from the edge of the fabric, I'm going to move my needle over. Now if you don't have the option of moving your needle over, you'll probably have to have your fabric somewhere closer to the middle of the foot, okay, just to make sure that needle is sewing that 2 or 3 millimeters away from the edge of the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to move my needle right over there. Okay, alright, and I'm starting right at one of the ends here just so you can see how I do the corners. So I'm going to lower my presser foot, and I've got the option on my sewing machine to have the needle start and stop in the down position. So if you don't have this option, then just use your hand wheel and turn it towards yourself to get it into the down position when you stop. Okay, so I'm going to make a start, and I'm going to back stitch just to secure that in place. Right, I'm going to keep on sewing until I'm about 3 millimeters away from the edge. Okay, so my needle is in the down position. I'm going to lift my presser foot up, and I'm going to turn my fabric so it's ready to go down this short edge. So it's lining up there. Okay, now in this, with the corners here, sometimes I'll have something to help push the fabric through. I might have a stick of some sort, or maybe a pencil with an eraser on the end that has a bit of grip, might help you push it through, especially if you're using a standard foot, because this is where your needle can get stuck and just sew in one spot if the feed dogs aren't catching it. So we'll see how we go. Okay, so I'm going to continue like this all the way around the edge of the lanyard until I get back to this starting position, and then I'm going to back stitch just to finish it off. Okay, so now we're ready to do the last step of our lanyard with our snap, which is adding in the snaps. So for this step, I just use these snap pliers. You'll need an awl or something, a tool of some sort that can poke a hole through your fabric. And I've got my snaps, so I've got my 2 caps and I've got my stud and my socket. Okay, so to put the snaps in, what you'll need to do is use the awl to put a hole through one end of the fabric, probably about probably enough for the cap to miss the stitching on the edge there. So I might, it's a guesstimation really, so try and get it in the centre, so about there, and just poke it through, and this is to create a hole to put the cap through the fabric. Okay, so I like to put the cap through from behind when it's on the shortest part of the lanyard here. So I'm going to poke a little prong on the cap through the hole that we've just created. If I can get it through. There we go. Alright. And it doesn't matter whether you use the stud or the socket, I don't think. I think it'll probably come down to personal preference. So what I like to do is just put that bit on top there, and then use the pliers. I've got, actually this is a size 20 snap, I forgot to mention this, and I've got my size 20 die in my pliers here. So I line up the cap with the bottom of the die there. You should feel it should sit nicely in there. Make sure that prong lines up with that little metal bit in the middle there on the top. Okay, and then press it as hard as you can. Okay, so that bit's done, and then we just need to add our snap to this end. Okay, so the same thing, use the awl to put the hole through the lanyard, put your cap through. Now just double check to make sure that the lanyard's not twisted at all. Poke the cap through and add on the other bit of the snap. Line up the cap and line up the little prong, make sure it's going to hit that middle bit, and press it. Okay, there we have it. There we go. Our snap is done. There we go, and our lanyard is finished. Well done.